Hey world, I almost forgot to make a video this week, just because I've been working on so many other projects that I figured we should do something pretty quick and easy. So this right here is a slip dress. As you can see, there are no darts, nothing to fit it, but it does sort of curve and hug the body. This is because this fabric is cut on the bias. So normally we cut things straight of grain, along the selvage of a piece of fabric. This is a 45-degree angle to that, and that causes all of this lovely stretching and curving that this is creating. So we're going to start with our torso block, and I'm going to do a guideline for, I want these points to be about 3 inches above the bust point. So I need a guide box that is 3 inches. I'm going to place that here, and of course, add a stroke so you can see it. I don't know why that's not the default. Add an anchor in that intersect. And then I want to draw a guideline with my pen tool that spans across and comes to here. Oh, actually, no. We want this to be probably up like this and then down over here. And perpendicular to the side seam. You know what? This probably just needs to be a straight line. This shape will change. We're going to add some stuff later. That's pretty good. That's pretty much how I want that to look at the center front. Line up to there. I figure out what this length is. So I'm going to copy just that front side seam. And I want to line it up to the back. Pretty close. Using my R tool. Rotating this so that it meets. And then let's make it pink so I can see it. Brilliant, there it is. I need to add an anchor point at that length so that we can get our side seams to match. And then that can go away. Our new anchor point's right there. I am going to draw a line from here. And I want this to go probably about there. So this is our basic shape. We're going to have to walk the patterns to get them to actually match later, but this is how I'm going to start it. So I'm going to get rid of our guide box. I'm going to leave my guideline there, but what I want to do is add just a little more fullness to the center front to give it this lovely, almost a cowl. It's a very small cowl, but I want to do just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is close my dart here, open it from here, rotate the whole piece, and you'll see. So we're going to do my favorite thing. We're going to cut these pieces, and then I need to add an anchor point here, and also cut it there. And I'm going to redirect my dart point to this is the bust point. These guidelines show you the bust point. And I'm going to take my guideline here and the upper portion of my pattern and rotate both to close the dart leg. So that didn't change anything about the shape of the dress as it stands. I just wanted to get rid of that excess on the side and add it to the front. So this does remove a little bit here, and so what I'm going to do for that, I need another guideline. I'm going to throw that in center front, and I'm going to just draft this over so that this anchor point matches to there. And I'm going to change the shape like that. So it looks a little strange. It totally is kind of weird, but I think this will make a nice cowl shape once the pattern is complete. So now that we've closed that and rotated our guideline, the length of our side seam is going to change. I'm going to zoom in and add an anchor point there. And what I want to do is see again what the length is. So I'm going to click on this line, Control C, Control V, move it over here, match it to the waistline, anchor point, close enough, and then rotate to match here. Again, always making it a different color so I can see it. Now what I'm going to do is move this to there. So I already like that more because this is not such an extreme curve on this line here. I think that'll be good. All right. Now I can get rid of all of the upper portion of this pattern. All of this stuff is going to go away. So delete all that. Fabulous. I am going to delete all of this as well. We don't need that. I don't need that anchor point. And so this corner is where you would attach your spaghetti strap. I think for this one, I almost want to just get rid of this dart. If I make it any smaller along the waistline here, I think this corner will be really too awkward to sew. So for this, I'm just going to ignore this dart completely. Bye-bye. This won't matter, especially once this is cut out. Usually what you do for bias cut things is you cut them on the bias, sew the pieces together, so you'd sew side seams and center back, and then let it hang for a night. So if you hang it overnight, the grain line will settle and you can hem things better that way. So why is it giving me weird points way out here? That's very odd. I'm not really sure. But I can reset the bounding box. That makes me happy. All right. So I'm going to do this over here, adding anchor points, cutting anchor points. Top part of the center back, gone. The dart, I think I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to get rid of the dart also. Because again, watch what I do here. If I take this anchor point and this side seam point and move them both, you see how crazy that part gets? This would be terrible to try to sew. That's super ugly. So I'm not going to remove, oops, I'm not going to remove any more out of this waistline. Just getting rid of these darts. And recreating my patterns. Those are pretty well crossed. Join, click and drag, join. So even though this dress does have a little bit of a slinky curve to it, especially around the hips and a little bit around the bust, you can see that there is a little bit of extra fabric at the waistline. It doesn't hug like a normal fisheye dart would. It does give a little curve, which is nice, but there's not as much structured fitting in a bias cut dress. So basically, for all intents and purposes, for our intents and purposes, these two patterns are complete. What I would normally do, let's see, to sew this, I would want a facing. And so I'm going to take the upper portion of this, probably to there, and I'm going to see if I can't reflect it along the horizontal and put this back here. And so this is an interesting discrepancy, but I think what I'm going to end up doing is removing all of these points and using this as my guide to figure out this shape. So this piece would be folded inward so that the spaghetti strap has somewhere to be stitched between, and that way you can hide the raw edges. I sometimes when I make like a cowl back, I'll make this a cut on facing, but for this one, I don't think I want to do that because I don't know where else I'd attach my spaghetti straps. So I'm going to reflect this again and just hit OK. So this would just be stitched to here as a facing to finish off this edge and attach your spaghetti strap to. I would do the same thing to the front using your direct select tool and then just copy and paste those points and finishing in the pattern like that. Okay, so I'm going to move these over here because these are basically done. But I'm going to guides, hide guides. Most bias cut patterns are not shown like this, cut on the fold. Usually when you buy like a store-bought bias cut dress pattern, they'll have the center front line, you won't see it, it'll just be mirrored, so it'll be a full pattern. Which you could sort of do with the back as well, but it's probably a smart idea to put a zipper in there just in case. Oh, I forgot this. I'm going to add a little bit of flare to these skirts as well. Just a little bit though. So I'm just going to add about that much. You know what? Because this comes in at such an angle, I think I'm just going to leave it a square. Once it's hung on the bias and, you know, when you wear it, it's going to trump it out a little bit as you move. That's just the nature of bias. So never mind. Back to this. I'm going to remove the center front line and then take this pattern, transform, reflect, not on the horizontal, so it's not upside down, on the vertical. We're going to copy it. And now our pattern looks like that, which I realize looks real silly. I'm just going to ignore it. We're clicking, dragging, joining our pieces. I think now is probably a good time to test our shape by walking the pattern pieces. Grab my anchor and match it to that anchor if it'll let me. Sometimes it doesn't. Snap to there. Okay. I'm already seeing a little bit of strangeness. This almost comes up before it goes back down, but I don't think it's going to matter that much. We're going to rotate this. This should be exactly the same length. Yep, because I did that before. So that curve is a little strange. All I'm going to do is use my handles, which I don't have. That's why this is strange. Oh, no, there they are. Okay. Just sort of smoothing out that shape. Yeah, it's pretty close. You wouldn't notice it once it's sewn in the bias. All right, back to this, our walking of our patterns. We are going to, using the rotate tool just to click and match. And they're pretty close, but looks like the back pattern is actually a little bit shorter. So I'm going to grab both of my anchors and pull this down to match. That looks better. Alrighty, this can go away. I will make a facing pattern for the front by selecting those, Control C, Control V, and then just finishing this shape. So the facing patterns definitely also need to be cut on the bias, or they won't stretch around the bust and the back at all. So everything here needs to be cut on the bias, which can be a total pain. Most people do not like making bias cut dresses just because they shift, the hemlines aren't always the same, they get weird, they stretch out all the time. So often to make one of these, you'll have to starch your fabric before you cut it out, and then cut it out, rinse the starch out, hang it up for a day so that the hem can settle, even out the hem by cutting off the excess, then hemming it, and then you can wear it. Super obnoxious, I know. But that's just how bias cut stuff works. I really enjoy bias. I think things cut on the bias are just so elegant. And they fit the body really well without being too clingy or too tight. And they just look really nice, you know? You could also make this same pattern for something that you would wear as a slip underneath another dress. And that way it won't be fitted or too frumpy under the dress that you already are wearing. I would, however, take out a little more of the waist if you use the same pattern, just so that there's a little bit less fabric on the waistline from your original dress pattern. Okay, so now this is the direction of your grain. So if I were to draw grain lines, they go like that on every piece. Sometimes bias can also be hard because fabrics aren't wide enough for patterns that are very long. So if this was a floor length bias cut dress, there'd probably be a seam that would run like from here to here and be a triangle piece of fabric to make up for what's missing. So all of those are your grain lines. That way you can cut them, you can line them up to pretend the white square is the selvage, or the fabric, and you've got your selvage over here. You can use these to line it up parallel to your selvage. Let's see if I can even get this all to fit. Well, I can probably get it all to fit without seam allowance. Let's see what happens when I add 1/2 inch of seam allowance to the whole thing. Object, path, offset path, 0.5. We can preview it. It's going to be real snug, but I think we could probably figure it out. Other good practices for bias cut things are to stitch them with French seams, meaning stitching them wrong sides together with half the amount of seam allowance and then cutting away, and then just flipping it and sewing it the other way. So yeah, usually I'll sew it with 1/4 inch of seam allowance with the wrong sides together, and then I'll trim it really close depending on how likely the fabric is to fray. If it's going to fray totally away, I don't cut it as close, but you are getting stronger seams because you've got twice the amount of stitching. So yeah, you sew them wrong sides together first with your half of your seam allowance, you trim it real close, and then flip it so that the right sides are together, and sew it again so you have a fully enclosed raw edge, which is great for bias cut things. And as you can see, I'm having trouble finding, at least the way I had it before, enough room, to cut out these pieces if this was a piece of fabric. It's not, but you get the idea. So this could be an example of the pattern placement for a bias cut dress. Although I'm also realizing now I need another one of these. I'm going to copy that and then rotate it this way. Yeah, see, if this was a piece of fabric, we would be in trouble. So that's another thing when I was talking about, you might have to cut out a triangle to fill in the extra space, which there would be room down here on the other side of the fabric, but it's totally a pain. But yeah, so there's a super quick tutorial on how to go from a torso block with darts to a bias cut dress with no flare in the skirt, but it'll have this fun little trumpeting, fluting at the bottom once it's hung out to settle after a while. You would attach your spaghetti straps to these corner points where I had those bust darts marked, and then the center part would just hang, creating this little what do I call that? Why am I blanking on words? Cowl, sorry. This little cowling here that just sort of is a nice wrinkle. It's very pretty. Anyway, thanks for joining me this week, and if you like this video, please hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for next week's video. Hopefully it won't be so rushed.